Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video I wanted to talk about pre-built value. So a lot of people buy their desktop computers pre-built, and I just wanted to kind of give a little bit of kind of reference to being being able to build your own PC or go buy it from somewhere else. Now I've got three pretty well-known places that sell pre-builts. Dell is probably a pretty big one, and then I've got Cyberpower, and then I've got Micro Center. And for our baseline, what we're going to be comparing it to, this is our system. This is going to be kind of like the best case scenario. So we've got a Ryzen 5 2600, a really good 6-core 12-thread processor with an ASRock B450 Steel Legend. This motherboard is really nice. It's got some good I/O on the side. You got USB Type C, along with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You got 7 USB connectors. I think that one is for BIOS flash, so you can flash this without a CPU, I think. Don't quote me on that. But you got the RGB here. You've got a really nice metal plated PCIe connector to kind of help out with that graphics card sag, and you've got your 4 slots here for your DRAM. It's got a lot of nice features in a ATX B450 board. As well, we are using a HP 500GB NVMe SSD. You can get this off Amazon. It's a good quality SSD. It's not the best. It's not anything like a Samsung drive, but I mean it's pretty good. It's a pretty good NVMe drive. And for our graphics card, we are going with a RX 5700. This is a great card. Actually, I don't know about this particular model. I heard some bad things about it. But you can just get the reference model. I think the reference model goes for like $300, so you can take off like $20 off of this, and get the reference model. And then a Thermaltake, get some RGB going here. We got a Thermaltake case. I like Thermaltake cases. They usually do pretty okay on them. I mean, they're not the top notch, but they're not terrible. You got some SSD sleds in here, and then you've got trays and dust filters and everything like that. So it's a good case. And for our power supply, Thermaltake 500 watt, nothing to write home about. It's a good power supply. Now it might be limiting as far as upgradability, but we are only using about 340 watts, so you got some headroom to upgrade a graphics card and your CPU. So that is our baseline system. Alright, so on our first person, our company that we're going to be talking about, dude, why is it just spamming this stuff? No. How do I get this out of here? God damn it. So I can't figure out how to get that picture back, because I hate Dell's websites. The amount of pop-ups that you get in videos that just start randomly playing are terrible. But the system, it's just like a generic system. Let's see if I can kind of scrub through and find a picture of it. No, it's just a bunch of really bad marketing stuff. But it shouldn't matter. We got the specs list up here. So we've got a 9400 6-core 6-thread CPU, NVIDIA GTX 1660 Ti, and the kind of price that we're staying at, we're trying to get around $750, which is a price range where most people can buy. So $750 gets you a good graphics card, a decent CPU, but what's really lacking is the this stuff right here. So you only get 8 gigs of DDR4. You could throw in your own, so instead of having to go down here and pay $100 more for an 8 gig stick, I'd most likely recommend just buying your own online and then just swapping it in yourself, because RAM is probably the easiest thing to swap in. I mean, it's literally just a stick and then you just push it in a socket, like it's not hard. And then you've got a 1 terabyte. You got a 1 terabyte drive. It's a hard drive. You're not getting an SSD. It's going to be kind of slow. You're not going to have fast boot times. You're not going to have fast loading times. It's going to give you some trouble. But I guess it's kind of mitigated because, again, you can throw in your own SSD. You're gonna have a decent graphics card, which again, that's good value. It's basically one tier below the RX 5700. It's pretty good performance for this, and if you don't want to build your own system, this is an okay option. But I've got two more options I'm gonna go with, so you know, we'll kind of see what else everybody's got. All right, so for Cyberpower, as far as this price range goes, I was kind of scrolling through here trying to see stuff. I was kind of looking at this, but again, we're gonna kind of go with the $750 price range. So we're going to go to this thing. So it's a micro ATX PC, at least I can see. I think it's micro ATX. It's not mini ITX, is it? I don't know, it shouldn't really matter though. Yo, it's a mini ITX, so it's fairly small. So if it's portability and just a small form factor PC is something that you're looking for, you know, you might want to go with this. Now, what I don't really understand with Cyberpower's decision in configuring this stuff is that they put they have good peripherals. So when you're talking about a company like Dell, the motherboard is where they're going to cheap out. They're going to cheap out on the motherboard and the power supply. That is where they're going to get, you know, the motherboard is their own, and the power supply, like look at this. I can't zoom in, but look at that. It's a small form factor power supply. Probably can only supply up to maybe 400 watts. Like, it's not gonna give you a whole lot of stuff. And then the rear IO, it only gives you some USBs and then some audio. Like, it's not. This is where they cheap out, and this is where it's expected. Well, with these guys, on a pre-built, I kind of want them to cheap out on it. Not saying that that's good. I wish they had high quality parts, like, you know, like with this. Like, this is all decent quality stuff. You're not gonna, none of this except the power supply. I mean, the power supply you could, you know, kind of tier up if you want. But as far as this goes, they're using a, let's see if I can get down to the specs. Where are the specs at? Yeah, so these companies are never easy to navigate. I had to go back to this and actually figure out where they put all this stuff. So they come with a AMD 3600. It's one generation better than what's on here, so you're getting a pretty good processor. The 3000 series processors have been really good in terms of gaming performance and multi-thread performance. Now, what I don't understand, see, this is my problem with these things, is that they are buying an X470 ITX RGB motherboard. It's a good motherboard. Let's see if we can get it up real quick. Now, it's not necessarily as good as I thought it would be. Now, this is a LGA version of it. It's not a AMD version of it. I think this is what it looks like. Yeah, I think this is, but this isn't the X470 version of it. I'm not quite sure. But it's not like, it's not a cheap board. These are fairly expensive boards, and that's why they're marking it up. I think it's like $170. Alright, anyways, let's get back to the specs. So we've got a Ryzen 5 3600. Again, it's better than our CPU that we put up in here, but I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference because you're only using an RX 570. And that card itself, I think it's a $120 card. I'm not going to mess up this whole thing I've got here, but it's a $120 card. Now, you do have fairly fast RAM. It's a 3200 megahertz kit, and it's good for Ryzen because Ryzen does use a lot of that memory for, you know, its Infinity Fabric. So I think with this generation, the Infinity Fabric on their processors, which is basically, it's basically the interconnect between all the parts, and so on the first generation of Ryzen, you would want a fast Nvidia Fabric, and it would give you a lot of faster points, but it was directly tied to your RAM. But still, having high clocked RAM on Ryzen does increase the processor's performance by a decent amount. But I don't think it's going to matter a whole lot because they really did sacrifice graphics performance because they're only using a $120 card, which is worse than what Dell has, a lot worse. RX 570 is pretty bad in comparison to both of those two systems that we've had. Now you do get an ITX PC, so I don't know. It might make the difference for you. It's got a 2 terabyte hard drive and a 240 gigabyte SSD. You can't really store too many games on that SSD, so I'll be able to store like 1 or 2, depending on how big they are. The hard drive, I usually just use hard drives for mass storage, for like photos, videos, audio recordings and stuff like that. But if you're not into doing that stuff, it's kind of like, what would you use it for? Because load times are going to be crazy slow. So as far as this one, this is by far the worst one that we've encountered, and I would not recommend Cyberpower when it comes to all these now. I mean, again, it might change per system and change per deals, but at the $750 price point, I would not get from Cyberpower. Now, coming up with our last and final pre-built that we're looking at, this one's from Micro Center, and as far as specs go, it's pretty similar to the Dell one. You've got a 9400F. It's basically the same thing as the 9400, except it just doesn't have integrated graphics, which is, I mean, why would you need integrated graphics when you're running them off of a GPU? You know, it doesn't really make any sense to me. But we are running, you know, 16 gigs of RAM, so you're getting 1 stick more than, you know, the Dell build, as well as we're also running a 1660 Ti, so the graphics card is the same. But where's the storage at? Well, we've got 500 gigabyte SSD. I don't need to go down there and look at that. But again, it's a lot better than the Dell. You're getting a much faster system in general. Again, all this is completely modular. It's just a regular system. You got a nice case. You know, you got some nice LED fans in there. You got a Wi-Fi card down here. So, I mean, as far as everything goes with this system, this would be the one that I would suggest more. It's pretty similar to the Dell system, other than it having a much faster drive, as well as 1 stick more of memory. But again, if Micro Center is not in where you live, or they can't ship to you, again, this Dell would probably be you know, the most value to go for. Now, if it's not your price point, easy thing to do. Just go into PC Part Picker, and if you don't know relative specs, it's you know, it's kind of hard to know your relative specs. But when you're going on these websites, they list all the specs on here. So all you have to do is go on PC Part Picker. You see, go Core i5 9400, and we'll just take. We can't keep the compatibility here. Let's go. So Core i5, 9400. And so this is what consumers are paying for it, and it kind of puts everything together. So even if you don't know what all the parts mean, you can still go to, you know, go shopping for all these computers, look at the specs list, and then put them in to PC Part Picker and see, you know, how much they're really taking off, because they're going to charge you more. You know, that's just the thing with pre-builds. But I don't really think that they're terrible value, and surprisingly, I thought Dell would be the worst value here. But it does look like Cyberpower was, you know, hands down the worst at the $750 price range. And I mean, again, get an NVIDIA GTX 1660 Ti. Again, what I said, if you're considering buying this system, swap out the 8 gigs, all right? Just buy another stick of 8 gigabytes of DDR4, and then get a, you know, just get an SSD with it, and it will be a good PC for that price range. With everything added together, you might be paying $800 for it, depending on how big of an SSD you get. 1 stick of 8 gigs might cost you like $25. So again, it's not gonna be a crazy expensive upgrade, but a pretty needed upgrade if you want to be able to run games and do stuff pretty well. So that is going to be the end of the video, guys. You know, leave a like if you like the content, subscribe if you want more, you know, stuff to watch, I guess. Like, I don't know. And I'll see you guys in the next one.